Jeanette Jackson acting the recent day of her Country of the Planet round in Atlanta the Saturday. The policy environment of the manufacturer is backed by the melodic option, that allocates social conscious scrapbook tracks love the expertise and which on near Jackson's 28 top 10 traffic. I newly found myself in a lapful of beignet, dizzy in a childhood emotion, in the backseat of a rent vehicle. A few several hours over, I'd delivered of my household in New York to New Orleans, gathered a boyfriend in every aeroport, and begun the couple-hour driving to Lafayette for the discovery overnight of Jeanette Jackson's Country of the Planet round. As our final Jeanette playlist inflated via the speakers, I had flashbacks to the lot drives, and the innumerable buses, trains, and planes I'd boarded up for a glimmer of Jeanette Jackson. I tested to recall how it all began. I felt thing while Gary Dordan, Jeanette's loving concern in the live video, softly encircled his brush about her washing board press. My cardiac sank a slight while her vote ruined in aspiration, and her doe eyes begged to be detained. Sometime profound in the lane of my susceptible, teenager marrow I registered the off as female. Not length following, Jeanette liberated her at first big traffic scrapbook, style of a 10 years. I stored my benefit cash to buy it. To my frustration, once again was not on the path list. Instead of, where was an entire directory of songs I was just part aware of. I began to job my way ago via the albums how led to the compile. The brave sexiness of 1993's Jeanette is obvious at first slide. The scrapbook lid, dashingly, shows the celebrity topless, her breasts coated by her later partner's hands. My boyfriend and I utilized to sit and recite the lyric before we had them devoted to Rem. I knew previous on the factual speech she sing in If, but I as well recall the particular time while I implemented, in upheaval, precisely they intended. Later where was the public mind of 1989's beat nationality? My opening of the scrapbook coincided in my introduce to the African American story syllabus, or as lot of it as a commuter social high school in a substantially white society teaches. I wrote high school papers on public and race injustices, quotation Jeanette's lyric. I can now just think the eye rollers how must include followed the sorting of them, but all at low seemed to cherish my desire. End of YouTube position by Jeanette Jackson Vivo. And where was Jeanette's breakout scrapbook, monitoring, in its communication of liberation and autonomy? He's lightweight to know how a adolescent would lock on how a. By the period 1997's velvety cord scrapbook rolling about, I was operating in actual period. I acquired it at stroke of midnight on its produce day, 20 year ago the history October. The lid features Jeanette's vivid red curly hair bowed downward to, which reflect meditation technique? Appreciation. I heard to it one, on earphone, in the confidentiality of my own dormitory, that at the period was a little sanctuary to Jeanette, posters smeared on the walls, the floors carpeted in driven piles of periodicals. In subjects of personality awareness, solitude, and sex research, the scrapbook mirror ego I wasn't though aware I was possessing. At 15, I was fair appearing out who I was. I was navigation the ups and downs of my youthful year, studying my tension, training my own flesh, conclusion my path. While the velvety cord round hit Detroit, Michigan in the year of 1998, it would be my at first gig. Looking behind currently, I understand the travel was one of my at first real experiences in variety, the type how my commuter New Jersey parenting hadn't very proposed. The human beings, both of in my team and the general auditorium, were of evolving backgrounds, ages, races, and sex orientations. My mom, who had to escort me since I was insignificant, was very undertaken by the quantity of gay men in maintenance. I recall her request which it was on the portrait, openly sex artist, how were they in? It was a true investigation, but at the period I had no one in reply nor the requirement to do feeling of it. It would be so above a 10 years up I'd be capable to packaging my reason about the relationships among woman pop stars and gay men. Up I'd listen innumerable stories on how observer his man dance group done human beings, understand they were homosexual, and done other aware it was departure to be okay to go of, or on how piece of music gave teenager who were inconvenient in his homes, in his schools, and in his own leather consolation. It would get, though much longer. Up I implemented the facility relationships among gay men and female in general. The really types of relationships how would report my 20s, and suffer me in the solitary year of my 30s. On the tertiary overnight of our Detroit travel, we were undertaken backroom to encounter Jeanette. For several unidentified cause, the picture burned in my marrow is of plasticity bowls imbued in vividly colored candies. She came of, sugary as the confections, smile large, in jeans boiler suit and a sunlight yellow upper. I was excited and emotion. I got a fast hug and the opportunity to tell, appreciate thou, above and above once again, as she nodded in a way how implicit she knew which I was thanks her for or, at the identical period, had no concept. I cried on the aircraft trip behind. I had go so constructively shut to her, but I'd not been capable to articulate the real I largest requested to tell. While Jeanette liberated her following two albums, 2001's All For You and 2004's Damita Joe, I was visiting Boston College in one of the Jeanette fans I'd met in Detroit. We were take schematic $20 bus rides among Boston and New York town each few weeks for an infinite stain of scrapbook signings, say Shaw decorum and amateur performance. We'd sleeping external in channel on town sidewalks, close parks, by vividly lit marquees and the fans' partnership on such nights corset in me. We took thoroughness of every sum. I was take my at first females teaching classes for Nip Leggett, how shameful excellent cup time while Justin Timberlake torn outdoor Jeanette's bustier and vulnerable her papilla to the planet. We were particularly requested not to refer it in our job. The instructors had weary of it, or thick felt it was too mature for crib. I recall since it was a really particular kind of light. The nation was abruptly in the grips of Jeanette and her, virtually, celebrity-studded papilla, and I couldn't talk it. I don't though aware if I know in this day all the implications of how nip slide, of which it says on how females' bodies are recognized, or disregarded, on communities' fears of female as sex beings, especially dark female, and on the way civilization optionally chooses while to be prim and while the sexualization of female is trade and reasonable. Following school, I won a fan clubhouse competition to encounter Jeanette once again, and was delivered in my boyfriend to Las Vegas. Following several vocational she retired to a individual terrace in us, a few assistants, and few friends. We stood along at the end of a handrail, and I scanned her person. Okay, I was patently steadfast, observer, her obtained gratification of looking at the mob under, dancing to her piece of music. We took a tequila shooting, and talked brief. She was type, lavish in her period. The period, I found more than speech rather than appreciate thou. The clubhouse was noisy, and she leaned in shut, nearly jaw to jaw, so I could listen her dashingly peaceful talk vote. She emboldened me to conduct a career in TV. She mentioned her favorite components of my contest accession, and I couldn't trust she had recite it. It was a lifetime allocate, but I yet couldn't tremble the sense where was thing I necessary her to aware, thing I yet hadn't been capable to talk. Soon following Vegas, I excited to New York town to try out how entire work in television item. As my lifetime selected up, I did less blower related reel. Where were less of them to do, Jeanette disappeared and reappeared, weave in and out of my lifetime as her attention displaced off of piece of music. In 2015, I was in my previous 30s, inquiring for a way to easy newfound anxieties, while Jeanette's shatterproof scrapbook was liberated. Her at first recording in 7 year, it reminded me so lot of the velvety chord, sure, yet sensitive, reflecting, but indifferent in some human beings' opinions. Elderly 49, she had modified individually, vocally and musically, but she was as well, unerringly the identical Jeanette I bring down in loving in. For me, the largest conquering portion of the draft was how it provided increase, not reconsideration, the type of increase and personality actualization we all seek to. I trapped the Shatterproof round in Chicago and plan to see it once again in New York, but Jeanette had several public health issues accompanied by her pregnant, and the round flickered of. While it was announced she would restart Dwell amateur performance so quickly following give her childbirth, or receive dissolved, I was amazed. I didn't think her upcoming behind so rapidly. At the calling of friends, I solved to get a recent minute opportunity on the Discovery overnight in Lafayette, Louisiana. But thing is various on the round. I believe human beings, consisting me, didn't wait to see her out there love the once again. They've been dressed as various versions of Jeanette, tiring fun and pensive tradition shirts. I've though nested in a oaky shackle and several country of the planet lip color. Tiring them makes me so hell lucky, I sense love a child. I believe we're all making a bit of personality soothing by the safety quilt of nostalgic, but we're as well very excited how everything the item is, it isn't completely in the history. The sorcery is yet event and how brings a clear kind of gratification. The joy of possessing these songs and experiences to increase in is which I'd been hard to courier to Jeanette all on. So lot of us include stories on the ways Jeanette done us sense heard or recognized, or how she's leftward her mark on us. At 51, she may be embarking on her at first travel via maternity, but she already has generations of human beings who sense, at low a slight beat, grown on Jeanette.